You can hear me say yeah. If you still healing, say yeah. Yeah. If you can hear me say yeah. If you still healing, say yeah. If you know knowledge is power, turn it up. I'm a whole star, don't skim my page. Black woman magic season with age. From chalked up streams to a mic in the stage. I learned early, freedom's learned, I say. They try to count me out, I learned to count on every letter I master, put the lights on. From broken systems, I built my own lane. Turn wounds into wisdom, pressure to gain. I don't just speak, I teach when I talk. I don't just hope, I build when I walk. I've been evolving, molting my skin. If you knew where I started, you clap for the win. I read between lines, they never designed for girls who look like me to shine. But once you learn the code, can't cage your mind. Say it with me, literacy liberates life. Read it aloud, I'm free right now. Hands in the air, feel the truth come down. Read it aloud, I broke the vow. I said I had to stay small somehow. Every word I learned, every scar I heal, build me into something real. This my sound, this my crown. When I step out, read it aloud. I'm healing in public, evolving on beat. Soft where I need, still firm on my feet. I pray, I plan, I pivot, I rise. I trust the process and honor the signs. I'm somebody's mom, I'm somebody's guide. Somebody who refused to shrink a size. I teach parents power, kids how to dream. Turn households into literacy scenes. This ain't a moment, it's a movement. I don't gatekeep, I improve it. If they ask who sent me, tell them I knew it. God, grit, growth, yeah, I'll influence. They told me wait my turn, stay in my place. I built a whole table and widen the space. Once you know your worth, can't unsee the truth. Say it with me, reading is revolutionary. Read it aloud, I'm free right now. Read it aloud, hands in the air, feel the truth come down. Read it aloud, I broke the vow. They said I had to stay small somehow. Every word I learned, every scar I healed, built me into something real. This my sound, this my crown. When I step out, read it aloud. I've been becoming, don't rush my bloom. Had to unlearn just to make more room. Faith in my chest, fire in my feet. If I survive that, I can lead this. From hushed tones to headline nights, from can't see to watch her ignite. If you still growing, still breaking through, this part right here is for you. Say read, say read. Say think for yourself every day, every night. I'm here right now, my whole life loud, no dimming down. Read it aloud, I know my power now. I teach freedom, no backing out. Every word I learned, every scar I heal, built me into something real. This my sound, this my crown. When I step out, read it aloud. Literacy is liberation. Healing is loud. Evolution looks good on me.
There it is. There it is. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Hey, everyone. Katina Taylor, founder and CEO of Dreams KC. I hope you all can hear me. I hope you can see me. All of the things. I encourage you. I'm live on the Dreams KC Facebook page, the Dreams KC LinkedIn page, and the Dreams KC YouTube channel. So at Literacy is Liberation on all of our social media platforms. So if you don't already follow, please follow, share out this broadcast. We are not, and I always say this, I'm not going to be before you long, but something came to my attention today. And so I wanted to make sure that I addressed it because it seemed alarming to a lot of individuals. I won't say a lot, to some individuals. Let me adjust my lighting to make sure you all can see me really well. Looks like the thing is changing. There we go. Make it a little brighter. And so I wanted to, because it's in the literacy space, It impacts the entire state of Missouri. So I wanted to ensure you all that Dreams KC, number one, as a literacy advocate, as a organization that seeks to empower parents with the tools they need to teach their children foundational literacy skills. I wanted to make sure that you all knew I was aware, that I am being watchful, and that I would come and give you all the unabridged truth from my perspective, or certainly invite you to consider what is happening in a different way. So for those of you that may not know me, you may stumble upon this broadcast, this live broadcast on LinkedIn or on YouTube or even on Facebook, or maybe you haven't been with me live before. Welcome in. You can comment, and I can see some of your comments. I have my other device next to me as well, so I am watching Facebook comments, all of those things. Share this out. What has happened? What are we talking about tonight? You saw the banner that I had up. Let me see if I can put it back up so you can see it again. 500 million free books and still kids can't read. That's kind of that captures what we're talking about tonight. Again, we'll probably be on about 30 to 45 minutes. And I just wanted to make you all aware, if you weren't already, and I wanted to invite you all to consider a different perspective around this particular issue as it relates to our entire state of Missouri. So a few years ago, just so you'll know kind of where we are, and I dropped in the comments already a link. There are several articles that a couple of days ago went live. People are talking about it. So several years ago, the state of Missouri made a decision to support, to fund, fully fund, in a way that they haven't fully funded education in the state, but they fully funding a program called the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So that's really kind of the crux of what we're going to be talking about. And I want you all to hear me as we start this conversation, because I think that it's worth saying a couple of things as we go into the conversation. So first things first, in the last 30 years, we've had a handful of organizations across the country. These are nationwide organizations like First Book, like Dolly Parton Imagination Library, like Barbershop Books, and locally like Reach Out and Read, Turn the Page KC, Lead to Read, all amazing organizations doing great work. But they put collectively more than $500 million. Y'all hear me say that? More than $500 million books, free books, into the hands of children in this country. $500 million. A B. Not million, billion. And in that same window of time, reading scores have not gone up. In a lot of places, they've actually declined or gotten worse. So the question that I put to you all this evening, and I always have these conversations, is out loud. We have to say the thing out loud, right? And I don't think that we can ask this particular question enough. And that simply is, what if free books were never going to fix this? Just sit with that question. What if free books were never going to fix this issue? The literacy, quote unquote, crisis that we're in. Some people don't like that terminology. They say it comes from a deficit mindset, but we certainly know that more children and adults today are functionally illiterate than years past. So we have to wrestle with, discuss, think about, right, what's happening. Okay. So tonight, I'm really, I wanted to go live because in Missouri, something occurred. People were upset. They start having conversations. And fundamentally, the questions that they were asking and the statements that they were making made sense. However, if you are not steeped in literacy work or in the field of education and you haven't paid attention, oftentimes what happens is we're not asking the right question. We're not seeing it from the right point of view or perspective. And so I wanted to give us a different perspective or encourage us to ask different questions across our state and certainly in Kansas City, Missouri, right? So stick with me for the next half hour. At the end, I'm going to ask you to help me with something that's really real that will move us forward in the way that we absolutely need to move forward, right? So I wanted to be really, really clear about like why we're doing this, what we're talking about, all of the things. Okay, so I'm gonna put my title back up here, and I'm gonna go to this one because I think this is really, really important, right? So this is what has happened over the last couple of days. It has been proposed. Our budget is being moved forward in the state of Missouri, and so we are looking at going from an investment of $6 million fiscal year 2026 to $2 million for fiscal year 2027. That is a 2/3 cut, 67% less. And what that also means is that after 2026, kiddos, those of you that may not know, Dolly Parton Imagination Library is a program where kiddos up to 5 years old can enroll for free, and monthly they get books mailed to their home. And so the state of Missouri had made a significant investment and said, we want to cover this for the children across our state. And at first glance, again, it's like, great. We need to have literacy rich environments. We need to ensure that all families that want books in the home have access to books in their home, right? That makes perfect sense. Who would debate that? And Katina wouldn't, generally speaking. I would not. I agree that I think we absolutely need to have literacy rich classrooms, schools, and school districts. We need to have literacy rich, we need to have access, communities that are literacy rich. So be it churches, barbershops, laundromats, you name it, wherever we can find children and families, we want to ensure that they have access to books, right? But one of the things I'm really, really clear about, well, let me not go ahead because I was going to jump ahead because I get going. So I'm going to slow myself down. And you all have seen this, right? So we're looking at cutting $4 million. We are discussing. The governor has to sign. It is not a done deal. So I want you all to be really, really clear that this is what's being proposed, not what is a done deal yet. Okay? I will not tell you all what you should support, what you should call your elected officials and say or not say. I am providing information. I would encourage you all to think critically about it, process it, and then move from there. So if you want your elected officials to support this cut or not, that's a decision you have to make for yourself. But I wanted to ensure that you have enough relevant information to make the actual decision, to think through it, to problem solve, right? So that is why I decided to go live to discuss it, because I saw some conversations, and in that moment I knew, I was like, this is going to take too long. So I can't get in comments and start typing. We'll be going back and forth. But the larger community, the state, across the state, we need to be having this conversation. So here's what happened, right? So Missouri lawmakers, they proposed cutting the funding for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. That's the program, of course, that mails a free book every month to kiddos from birth to age 5. So if you are older, if the kiddos in our community are older than age 5, they are ineligible for this program. This is birth to age 5. This is the time when you, as the adult, as the caregiver, right, the supporter, you're the storyteller for your children. You're teaching them how to handle books. The books are read left to right, top to bottom, right? That how we think through a text. We're introducing them to different genres of text. We're building their background knowledge, taking them on adventures, teaching them how language works, all of these things. So from birth to age 5, we are doing a significant amount of reading to our children. Now, I will say something in addition to that. When we are ready for our early literacy learners to begin reading themselves, we should be reading less to them, because then they are now building their own new neural pathways, and they should be practicing the skills so that they become confident and competent readers. And the way in which they do that is they practice reading themselves. So our role shifts. Early on, we're the storyteller. Then we shift and we actually become a playmate. We're teaching them how to play with letters and sounds and all of the things. And then as they become pre-readers, 3, 4, 5 years old, going into kindergarten, our role shifts again. We become a coach. And we are coaching them through the process of learning how to match letters to letter sounds, decode, blend, ask the appropriate questions of who, what, when, where, why, all the things, as they are making meaning from the text, right? But that early stage, when we're the storyteller, we're reading to them, right? We are helping them develop their vocabulary and all of the other things. So reading to our children has its place, all right? So I just wanted to say that, right? So the proposal is that we cut the funding from $6 million down to $2 million for the coming year. That's a 2/3 cut. You saw it on the slide. And starting July 1st of this year, Missouri would stop taking new kids into the program. The goal originally, when they made that investment of the $6 million, was to ensure that as many children from birth to age 5, all of our children across the state, would enroll. Right? That was the goal. That was the plan. That was the hope. I don't know where we have gotten in regards to that goal. I know it is not all of our children across the state. That's for sure. So also understand and know that if your children are already signed up, they will keep getting books, but it's only as long as the money holds out. Once the money runs out, that's it. So if you've already signed them up, and all of that, they've been getting their books, you're good to go. Now, I will say I signed up 2 of my grandchildren. And the delivery of their books was not as consistent as the month that it's supposed to be. They're supposed to get books every month. That did not necessarily happen. And then when we were getting books, some of the books repeated. And so I will just say, I don't know what was going on with the systems and the operations, but I will tell you that that was my experience. I've been in my home for 15 years. I have not moved during the time that I signed my grandkids up, but I'd like to know if you've had a similar experience. Shout it out. Let me know. Drop it in the comments so that I know whether or not it's been very, very smooth for you, or if not, that I would like to know that too. And I think that's good feedback for Dolly Parton Imagination Libraries and any municipalities or state governments that may be funding it, so that they can work out any kinks within their system. Okay. All right. So that being said, here we go. This is a big deal. The Kansas City Star, reported on it. And they said something like 45% of Missouri kids under 6 are enrolled. 46 or 45%. So we have not met the goal. We started in 2023 with Dolly Parton Imagination Library right here at the Folly Theater. I was invited. I went to the kickoff, got to see Dolly, all the things, right? Because I grew up in a house, y'all. My grandparents, my mother's father, and my grandmother, they always had their radio on 61 Country. Y'all remember that radio station? So we grew up with country music. We have very eclectic musical taste. We are continue to be fans of Dolly Parton. So anything that I say, I don't want you all to take personal. I think she's done some phenomenal service work, utilizing her celebrity to raise awareness around literacy and many different things. And so this is not at all shade, about Dolly Parton. Like, love her. Okay. And the fact that she is getting older, she's had some health concerns, like we send our thoughts and prayers. This is a separate conversation. She recently lost her husband You know what that means as we age and we've been with someone as long as she had been with her husband. Like, that takes a toll, right? It takes a toll. And so I know she's had to cancel concerts and performances and things like that. So our thoughts and our prayers are with her. I hope that she's on the mend and can get back out there for as long as she would choose to, right? So all of that to say, 2023, Dolly came. The Missouri governor was here in Kansas City. Folly Theater kicked off the initiative. And only since then, here we are in 2026, only 45% of Missouri's kiddos from birth to 5 have signed up, have enrolled. I don't know how the marketing and the PR went. I don't know how many people were made aware. I don't know if we targeted certain communities or not. All I know is 45% of Missouri kiddos are enrolled. Okay. So since 2023, the state has mailed out more than 4 million books. 4 million. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 million, y'all. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, also known as DESE, is now saying that they might go looking for private donors or local partners to keep the program alive. We don't know yet what that may or may not look like, but I'm giving you the context. I'm giving you a clarity and understanding of kind of where we are. So the easy story tonight, right? The story you're going to see everywhere is Missouri took books away from kids. That is what is coming up. That is what is being conjured up. That is what is being discussed. And I get why that makes people angry. If you really think about it, it's like, wait, what? We taking books away from kids? Why would we do that? But there's a harder story, a harder truth that we need to, another conversation that we need to have. And I think we're upset about the wrong thing, right? And so that's why I decided I needed to go live. I needed to have this conversation. I wanted to make sure that we all were kind of like, wait, let's have the right conversation. I often say I'm a movie buff. For those people that know me, I like movies. And so I, Robot is one of those movies that stuck with me. It stays with me because there was a character that died in the beginning. Will Smith was the cop that was, brought to the scene. He was asked for, and he wanted to ask questions. He wanted to investigate this case. And so they had a like a virtual reality of the individual who died, the man who died, the doctor, the scientist. And every time Will Smith would ask a question, he couldn't get an answer if he didn't ask the right question. And I think sometimes we stay at surface level in these conversations around literacy and education. We're not asking the right questions, right? So that's, again, why I am doing this, why this is important to me, because I want you all to be informed. I want you to engage in the right way. I want us to be asking the right questions because we are the ones that provide voice to our kiddos when they can't provide it for themselves, right? So that is why I do this work, and that's why I have these types of conversations. So again, let me first start by saying really, really clear, I like Dolly Parton. This ain't about Dolly Parton, okay? I like her. I like her music. I remember when I know plenty of her songs, all the things. I love what she has built in terms of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So don't come for me. Don't put it out there that, oh my God, Katina's against the work of Dolly Parton. That's not what I'm saying at all. She started this. You all may not even know why she started Dolly Parton Imagination Library. If you do, you're going to hear it again because I'm going to tell you. But if you aren't aware, please be aware that, she grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. They were a poor family. And her father lived his entire life unable to read. Just sit there with that. And so she spent decades putting books into the hands of children all over the world. And I admire that work. I think it is honorable work. She started out, just wanting to impact. She was like, my town, kind of where I'm from. And then people got on board and was like, Dolly, you need to expand this work. And that's kind of how she slowly but surely expanded it, right? So this is not me coming in here. I'm not trashing her. I'm not bashing her. None of that. It is absolutely not saying also that kids shouldn't have books in their hands. Absolutely, our children should be in literacy rich environments. Absolutely. You will never hear me say anything contrary to that. But this is what I do need you to know. I need you to hold on to this thing for the next half hour that I'm with you. And I say this all the time. Two things can be true at the same time. Two things can be true at the same time. This can be very honorable work, and it can also be not solving the problem we keep telling ourselves that it solves, which is the literacy issue that many of our children are facing. If we just give them enough books, the problem will be solved. Well, remember what I said, billions of books have been given away over the last 30 years. So if in fact just putting books in the kids' hands and in schools and in libraries, in barbershops and laundromats, we're going to solve the literacy problem, I think it'd be solved by now, right? One of the things that I always say is, and I said this on my TikTok live, I think last week, was not every resource is the best resource. So we don't want to give kids just any old books. We got to give them the right tools if we're truly going to have impact and address the literacy issues that many of our children face. Okay. So two things can be true at the same time. This can be absolutely honorable work that Dolly Parton is doing through the Imagination Library, and it could also not be solving the problem we keep telling ourselves that it solves. And we just got to sit with that and be okay with that. All right. So I hope you all are here. I hope you all are tuning in. Share it out, drop comments, any questions, comments, or concerns that you have. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm listening. All right. I want this to be a conversation. If you catch the replay, drop in the comments replay. I would love to see who comes along and catches it later. I do respond. Let me get a drink because I had a meeting before this. Let me get a quick swig from my glass that says, let's get lit. All right. So first and foremost, we got to talk about what actually teaches children to read, right? Because somewhere along the way, again, we got sold a story and this idea that makes us really comfortable that if we just get enough books into homes and we tell parents, just read to your children, read to your children, read to your children, that literacy will take care of itself. And I'm sorry to tell you that that's just not the case. Reading to your kids is wonderful. It has its place. I've already talked about it. Builds your vocabulary, builds their love of stories, it increases their ability to pay attention, their sense that books is something good. And we want to keep reading to our children. And a house full of books is a gift, but 5 books in a home, if they're high quality books, can also be a gift, right? But here's what nobody puts on the billboard. This is what we don't scroll across the screen. This is not what we put in the newsletter that we send home. And that is simply, in all honesty, that reading to a child does not teach a child how to read. It doesn't. That is the truth. That is what the data, that is what the science, that is what the research, that's what our own literacy journey tells us. That reading to your child does not teach a child how to read. We got to sit with that. We got to own that. We got to know that. We have to tell everybody we come across that information so that people don't fall for the okie doke and think, well, because, and I've seen parents in tears say, well, they just told us to read every day. Yes. And you should read. I say every other day, because those other days I want the kid to have a book in their hand. They're practicing the skills. And they're often in tears because they did the thing that the professionals told them to do, and their child still wasn't a reader, still was struggling along the literacy continuum. We did that. As a society, as communities, as families, as education professionals, we did that. And we just have to sit in that, and we have to undo it now and just tell the truth, right? Because ultimately, we should be working for what's in the best interest of children, right? So just understand and know that that hard truth is reading to a child does not teach a child to read, okay? Learning to read isn't natural the way learning to talk is. We are born hardwired for oral language, not reading. A kid doesn't just absorb how to crack the code of print, text, letters by hearing or being near books, being in literacy-rich environments. That ain't what it is. It's decoding. It's turning those graphemes, letters, right, on the page into sounds and words. We have to match the graphemes, the letters, with their phonemes, the sounds. That's intentional. That's consistent. Right? That is what it is. This has to be taught explicitly, systematically. There is a process by which we build the neural pathways for the written word. Somebody has to teach a child the letters maps to sounds and how to blend those sounds to make words. That's the part that the free book model leaves out entirely. It doesn't matter if I give them books if they can't decode the text in the book. And remember, I said for 30 years, we've been giving away free books, but we've also been doing something else. We've been following what's called whole language and balanced literacy. We've been teaching folks to guess. So the parents and the adults of today were the students we failed yesterday. So then we tell those parents that have their own literacy challenges because we did not effectively teach them how to read, to teach their children to read. How are they supposed to do it? Y'all, we got to just ask the real questions. We got to get real with ourselves. How are they supposed to do it? So that giving the free books, it left that part out. We can mail a beautiful book to every single child in Missouri. And if nobody teaches that child the code, how words and sounds work, the rules of the English language, then that book does nothing but become a lovely object that they cannot read. Beautiful book, beautiful pictures. I say it's the same thing that happened with technology during COVID. We sent a lot of computers home, but people didn't have access to the internet. And so before the library got involved and started partnering with schools and school districts and giving hotspots, those laptops, those computers for families that didn't have access just became really nice, expensive paperweights sitting there collecting dust. And that's exactly what books do. They sit there and they collect dust if the people in the home can't access the text, y'all. A literacy-rich home is the soil. I love metaphors, and I use them a lot. It's necessary, but it is not sufficient. Soil isn't enough. What you planting? You tilling that soil? Dr. Nicole Price would love that. Who the tillers? Who the planters? We've confused exposure to books with instruction and reading, and they are not the same thing, okay? So if you're just joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you are on LinkedIn. I'm glad you're on Facebook. I'm glad you're on YouTube. right? My name is Katina Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO of Dreams KC, where we empower parents with the tools they need to teach their children foundational literacy skills. And so I was just addressing a recent occurrence in the state of Missouri. That's where I'm from, where there's a proposed cut to the Dolly Parton free books program, the Dolly Parton Imagination Libraries, right? So we fully funded it to a tune of $6 million, and there's a proposal that we cut it down to $2 million. And that after July, no more children will be able to enroll in the program. Now, across the state of Missouri, which we launched this in 2023, only 45% of children from birth to 5 have enrolled thus far. That says something else about marketing, PR. How are we letting families know that it existed? It's less than 50%. Mind you, in a state where our literacy rate is 50%. Okay. All right. So let me keep going because I'm gonna jump off. I'm gonna jump off real quick, y'all. I'm gonna jump off shortly. So I want education professionals that see this, teachers to see this, literacy coaches to see this, and all of the things. We want to be on the same page when we start speaking about these terms, right? So here's something that most people have never heard, and even people who care a lot about this. So I want to make sure that we're clear. Like, you got to have shared language, common language, so we're all on the same page. When a child is when they are at the stage of learning to decode, meaning they're learning to read words by themselves, the kind of book that we give them matters. Y'all hear me say that again? I said, remember, we started out as storytellers, birth to about, 1 or 2. Then we become that playmate. 1 or 2 to about, 3 or 4. We're playing with letters. We're playing with sounds. We're doing word work. We're having fun with language. But then we shift. When a kid is really ready and they're at that stage of learning to decode, then the type of book, the kind of book that we put in their hand, it matters. And our role changes too. We then become a coach, right? As parents, as caregivers, as grandparents, as teachers, we're coaching them through the process, okay? So a kid in that phase needs what we call decodable text. So if anybody has a question about why Katina always is pushing decodable books, this is why. Because we're trying to build the foundational literacy skills of our kiddos, our early literacy learners, those that are ready to learn to match letters and sounds together, decode, blend, make meaning from what they're reading. So those are the books built so that the child can actually sound out the words using letter sound patterns that they've been taught. That becomes the practice field, right? So when they're at school or they're at home and we're introducing certain things, right? That's the playbook. When they get that decodable in their hand, now they're on the field and they're practicing. Again, y'all know I like analogies and metaphors and all the things. So I hope that makes sense. Okay? They get to practice the code and have success if we do it right. When they have success, they want to try more. If they're trying more, practicing more, that builds their confidence. As their confidence increases and they practice more, they do more, then they get to competence. We want them to have confidence. We want them to be competent. We don't want them telling us that they hate reading, they don't like reading, because they haven't been successful. None of us want to do the thing that we struggle with. We can lie and say we do, but I just don't think that's true. What they don't need at this stage are predictable texts, books like Brown Bear. I say that all the time, one of my favorites, but it's predictable. We know what's coming. It's repetitive. We know what it's going to say from page to page. Or what we call leveled readers, right? Whole nother conversation. Check out some of my videos on TikTok. I talk about leveled readers and even traditional storybooks. When they are learning to decode early on, you can read to them the traditional storybooks, the predictable repetitive text, or the leveled readers. But the bulk of their time should be spent reading themselves decodable books. Because those books quietly, right, teach them why we don't use those level readers, those repetitive books, the predictable text, all of the traditional storybooks, because it teaches them to guess. They are being exposed to words and word patterns that we haven't taught them yet. So they look at the illustrations, they look at the pictures, and they guess. Or they look at you and ask you to tell. And because you got a heart of gold for them, you do. So they're still not doing the work themselves. They're not lifting, what I call lifting the text. They're not figuring it out. They're not applying the skills that we have taught them to decode new words, build their vocabulary, build their fluency, because we're doing all the work for them. That's like a coach going out on the field and running all the plays and then expecting the team to perform on game day. Don't work like that, y'all. Don't work like that. It will not work, okay? So they need to be actually reading themselves. And guessing is a habit that comes back to bite them later. It really, really does. They would have to unlearn that habit, and then we would have to replace it with the appropriate habits. But if we start out in the beginning doing the right thing with the right resources and being intentional, consistent, right, systematic, in teaching them how to decode, guess what? We built the habit on the front end. And we can support them in becoming confident and competent readers. All right. So let me keep going. Y'all with me? Let me see. Y'all any comments? Not yet. That's okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm gonna stay with you because I think this is something that we should take our time with. I want you all to be really, really clear, understand. So now we look at the program that we're talking about. Again, we're talking about the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And one of the things that I want to also say is that they work through one single publisher, which is Penguin Random House. I did my work. I did my homework on this. I did my research 2023 when we decided to fund it because I didn't support it then. I'm just going to be honest. They use one publisher, which is Penguin Random House. And that's not me speculating. It's right there in their own policies. It's on their website, all the things. And I've sat in meetings with their leadership as well. And they've said that they will not even review independently published books or books from any other publisher. Well, that immediately, think about what that really means. Immediately, any independent author writing high quality decodable books for kids who are learning to read the exact books that a struggling reader or a growing reader needs the most, they can't get in. They can't even get their books into the hands of children through this program that we've made an investment of $6 million in our state. One pipeline, one publisher by design. That does not serve the bulk of the children in our state that need support in a real meaningful way. It just doesn't. So again, this isn't a knock on the books and saying that the books that they have are bad. What I'm saying is it's a model that isn't built around what an early literacy learner actually needs. The free book world and the science of reading, they don't talk to each other. And that's a gap. If we know that the science of reading and structured literacy tells us the kids need to be spending a great deal of time with decodable text, but the free books that are consistently given to families and kids and schools and churches and barbershops aren't the decodable texts, y'all, we missed the mark. The gap will still exist. That's problematic. We got to stop doing what's easy and do what's right. Stop getting the low-hanging fruit and climb to the top of the tree and get the best fruit. Just saying. Just saying. No knock, no shade. We got to do the right thing, though. Not the easy thing. All right. So let me get back to the number that I brought up in the beginning, right? So Dolly Parton's Imagination Library has gifted over 300 million books since 1995 by itself. 300 million. First Book, which is another huge program that gives free books, over 225 million books. Then you take in smaller organizations like Barbershop Books, Lead to Read, Reach Out and Read, Turn the Page KC, and other organizations. I'm just talking locally, right? That I like and support. But we put well over 500 million books, billion, into the hands of kids. So hear me and hear me well, because it really matters. I'm not saying these books did nothing. They created literacy-rich environments. They built homes full of stories. I had a little free library outside of my house. I had all types of books in them. That is real. We made books accessible to children. What I am saying, though, is if this book distribution by itself were the lever to shift the trajectory of literacy in our country, in our state, in our city, 500 million books would have moved the needle by now. And it hasn't. The crisis, the issue is still here. And in a lot of places, it's getting worse. So books aren't the lever. They're a piece of a more complex, strategic implementation plan that we should be putting together. It's a good piece of the puzzle, but it's not the only piece, right? So that's what I'm saying. I want you to really be clear about it. And you know, I think what we've been set up to believe, not because anybody, I always want to assume good intent. I've shifted in my mind as I've gotten a bit older, and I want to assume good intent. I don't know that people are lying, but I think people don't understand. They're misinformed. But giving books away is very visible. It's a visible, tangible thing that we say we can look at it, right? People show up, they're giving crates of books away. They can take pictures. There's photo ops, all the things. It's cheap compared to real literacy instruction. And it's politically safe. So ain't nobody gonna lose no election handing out free books, right? Mailing a book, it makes a great press release. But teaching a kid to actually decode is harder, it's slower, and it doesn't fit on a banner. So what gets the funding? The things that's shiny, right? The things that we can write a press release about, show up on the news, have the Folly Theater kickoff, have a celebrity in our town. That's the thing. That's the sexy thing. That's what gets funded. But that ain't always what works, okay? I'm just telling y'all. Y'all with me? I hope y'all still with me. I hope y'all still with me, for real. So here we go. I want to get real specific right here, and then we're going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up real quick, okay? A couple of things I want. People are upset. They're fussing, all the things, but what they're not talking about is this. One, books don't follow the families who need them most. When we're giving free books away, a lot of our families move, and they move often. They're transient in nature. It impacts school attendance, school enrollment, literacy achievement, all of the things. We talked about this ad nauseum, and we've had whole summits around attendance in Kansas City. And because many of our families are in transition and things like that, we know what this economy looks like, y'all. They move, and they move often. Well, let me tell you about some of the books. Let me tell you. We take when families are in transition, they take the necessities. And that doesn't always mean that they're taking the books. Okay. What I found out through research and one of my partner literacy organizations is if a family moves, they don't do a change of address or whatever, those books from the Dolly Parton Imagination Library do not get forwarded to a new address. They go back to the post office. Y'all can research and fact check me. And what ends up happening is they just stack up there. Now, some organizations, like one of my partner organizations, Reach Out and Read, they went to their local post office. When they learned about this, they got on a schedule. When their local post office accumulates so many of those Dolly Parton Imagination books, they go and pick them up. Because, like, we don't want to destroy the books. But think about how many different post offices exist. And how many literacy organizations are not aware that those books are stacking up. Well, they don't go back to Dolly Parton Imagination Library. They end up in recycle bins, in trash cans. I ain't making this up, y'all. It is the truth. So if no one's arranged to get them, they get thrown away. So then you have a Reach Out and Read. They go get them. But you still have a ton of other organizations that were unaware. So those books, more often than not, were going into the trash can or the recycle bins. They still aren't really getting into the hands of children or families. So that's one thing I want you to know. I want you to understand that. Okay. Second thing, we're not even looking at the data. We're blind to the data. What do I mean? People often say, we're in a book desert. That's why we got to be giving families books. We're in a book desert. We're in a book desert. So Katina, being who she is, start asking a question. Well, where's the data that says that? How do we define a book desert? Do we have book deserts in Kansas City or across the state of Missouri? How do we know? And there's no real study. There's no data mapping book access here in Missouri. None. Y'all hear me? None. Nada. Zero. None. So the research that everyone does use to talk about book deserts is from 2016. And it's from other cities entirely. I believe New York, Detroit, and a couple of other places, not Kansas City. So if you take Kansas City as a whole, we are not a book desert based on the definition, how a book desert is defined. We've got a strong public library system. We has multiple branches. We have Kansas City Public Library. We have Kansas City, Kansas Public Library, and we have Mid-Continent, who fills in the gaps across the county. We have mobile bookmobiles. We have school libraries. We have little free libraries. We have organizations that are giving books. Now I'm really, really clear, and I do understand that book desert isn't the whole city. Like, it's not a whole city thing, because there can be some neighborhoods within the city that could possibly be considered book deserts. But again, no data, no research, nobody's mapped it. How do we know? So there could be some neighborhoods that are book deserts in a city that is resource rich. Probably, maybe, we don't know. But nobody can prove it because nobody has the local data. That is problematic for us, right? And that cuts both ways. If I don't have the data to prove certain neighborhoods are book deserts, then nobody has the data to prove that $2 million or $6 million is being spent where the need actually is. Come on, y'all. We got to think critically about this thing. We are making decisions in both directions blindly. And that should bother all of us, because we may not be utilizing our resources to the best advantage. $6 million is a lot of money if it still isn't hitting the homes, the families, the kids that need the books. Come on. Push back. Tell me where the lie is. Just saying, y'all. Okay? All right. So I have a solution. I talked to a statistician and a researcher, and I said, what would we need to do for Kansas City to determine whether or not certain neighborhoods, certain communities, or our city as a whole could be defined as a book desert? And it's like, you need a good sample size. You need to ask the right questions. You can put surveys together to actually gather that data and information. It's not difficult. I said, what does the sample size need to be and all the things? And they really instructed me and worked with me to do this. So I'm like, this is where y'all come in. Y'all can help me with this, right? And this is the real reason, one of the real reasons why I went live tonight, because I don't want us to guess. I need us to have actual data, actual information to access in our own community that tells our real story. I don't want us to guess. So I put together a book access survey based on the information, the researcher, the statistician, the researcher that I work with. We put the survey together. And so I'm actually going to, let me go to my banner. And I'm going to put it up on the screen too, y'all. Let me see. Let me make sure I do that. So there's the QR code. There's the QR code to the English version of the actual book access survey. Scan that QR code, screenshot it. And then also, let me do this. Let me go to the banner too, because I have a link for it as well. All right, so there's the link right there. There's the QR code. You can screenshot it. It takes less than 5 minutes to complete. We need the data. Does Kansas City, in fact, as a whole, or do we have neighborhoods and communities within our city that are actually book deserts? That's the first question we have to answer, so we know where to put the resources, so that we are responsible with the limited resources that we have. Remember, it didn't say it's going from 6 million to 0. It says 6 million to 2 million. What if we were more responsible with the 2 million? If, in fact, we have the data and the research that tells us where, in fact, we need to be spending the $2 million. Y'all hear me? Y'all with me? I hope you are. So this is the English version of the book access survey. Please screenshot it, use that QR code, share with your friends, your family, your colleagues, your coworkers, educators, parents, grandparents, you name it, share it out, okay? We got to have the data. We got to have the data. And then here's the Spanish version. If your primary language is Spanish, you need it in Spanish. We have it in Spanish as well. Matter of fact, let me change the link, because the link, we have a link to the Spanish version also. So I'll put that up there now. So you have the QR code that goes to the Spanish version. You now have this scrolling across the bottom of the screen. You also have a link that would take you to it. If we need it in Spanish, we have it in Spanish. I'm going to even do one better. I'm going to put it in French as well. Why? Because we have immigrant and refugee families right here in Kansas City that speak French as their primary language. We need their information as well. This is a citywide initiative. What communities, what neighborhoods, church leaders, I'm calling you out. Corporations, give it to your employees. Schools, school districts, give it to your parents. I took some of these down to the youth librarian for Kansas City Public Library. It should be seen. These cards are now in different branches. If you all need more, reach out. Let me know. Mid-Continent Public Library, KCK Public Library. Let me know. Let's get the data. Grandview, Raytown, Lee Summit, Northland, Belton, Raymore. We need the data. We need the information, so we are more responsible with how we are spending the $2 million, if in fact the governor signs off on it in our budget, right? So this is important, you all. This is extremely important. I'm gonna put the English version back up there for you. Then I'll go back to the Spanish version as well. I'm gonna change the link back, so you'll have the link to the English version to match the English version that's on the screen, and then I'll go back again, okay? All right, so this, we need it. Take the survey. Please send it to 3 people that you know, a parent, a teacher, a neighbor, a fellow church member. 3 people. If all of us send it to 3 people, we would get the data we need. The more responses we get, the clearer picture we have, and the harder it is for anyone to make decisions in the dark. So when you show up and start talking about the appropriate allocation of resources of funding, but you don't have any data to back it up, you really don't have 2 legs to stand on. But when you show up with the data in your hand, that's a different conversation, right? That's a very different conversation. So take the survey yourself and then share it with 3 people and encourage 3 people to do it. Y'all sit there and take it together. Right? 4th of July coming up. Your 4th of July coming up. Take 5 minutes of that time and take the survey. Share it out with other folks. Take it to work with you. Okay? And here's what I'm not asking for. I'm not asking you to be mad at Missouri because they are proposing to cut the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I'm asking for something bigger. I'm asking us to stop treating Give a Kid a Book as the finish line, because that's not it. That ain't the finish line. That's a piece of the puzzle, you all. Fund the data, fund the instruction, the actual teaching that turns a book into a kid who can read it. Get the right books. Get the right books. If we invested more in decodables and got those into classrooms, libraries, homes, in addition to the traditional storybooks, then we're talking about movement. So again, take a few minutes after this. I want you to look up who your state legislator is, legislator, and tell them, don't just restore a feel-good, like, don't fight the budget cut. Fund what actually teaches kids to read. That may be a hard concept. Mayor Quentin Lucas, he did a whole post about it, which is what got my attention. I was like, whoa, wait a minute now, Mayor. But I also understand he's not a literacy expert. In the way in which our city is set up, our city officials don't get into what's happening in schools and school districts. Remember, our schools and school districts are ran by elected boards, not city council people and not the mayor. And many of them may not have a background in education. So I didn't get mad. I didn't go hard in the paint and none of that. I was like, nope, provide the information. Then we can have a real conversation of what needs to happen. Okay, so when you contact your state legislator, I don't want you to tell them, we need to restore the funding. No, kids need books. No, we need to fund science of reading instruction. We need to make mandatory for every single teacher in our state that they are certified in letters or Orton Gillingham trained. That we are making a significant investment so that libraries can carry decodable books. Okay? That's what we need to be talking about. Investing in the things that actually teach kids how to read. Okay? So that's what I want you to do. Take the survey, look up who your folks are representing you at the state level. Don't fuss at them about this budget. No. What can we do with the budget? Fund the study. Fund this. Fund the survey. Make sure all the families across the state of Missouri, we're gathering the data to determine whether or not our state, our cities, our municipalities actually have neighborhoods in them that are deserts, book deserts. That way we know how to allocate that $2 million. Okay? We got to do it differently, y'all. Got to do it differently. So I think this is probably it for me for the most part. I just want to make sure you all have this information. I'm going to take this down. I've had it up. I got the link there. I got this QR code there, both English and Spanish. You guys can screenshot this. You can share it with 3 people is all I ask you all to do. It's a short survey. It doesn't take a long time to complete, okay? So I want to wrap it up real quick. My mouth is dry. I had a meeting before I went live, so I need some water. I'm drinking out of my Let's Get Lit glass. So I'm gonna leave you with one thing. The one thing that I started with, two things can be true at the same time. We always got to remember that. Dolly Parton's work has been honorable. They have served, that Dolly Parton Imagination Library has served many, many families over the years. So no shade to this work, to what has happened, what she has done, what she has achieved. That's it. I love, love, love the fact that kids get free books in the mail. It kind of, it's like, once a month they looking forward to receiving something. They get excited about reading. They get introduced to new genres. But that's when you as the parent are doing the lift, right? They get something with their name on it. They get all excited. So that is, it's something cool about that. I still love when packages, we know how we get excited when stuff from Amazon come. And we also have to recognize that free books by themselves were never, ever going to teach children to read. That just ain't what it does. So we've handed out a half a billion books, and we still are struggling across the country with literacy, adults and children. So that's not an opinion, that's fact. It's not a myth, it's truth. It's backed up by the data, the NAEP scores, the MAP scores. I want us to really think about having something more than a photo op. I think we all deserve to have a populist citizenry that can read, because it impacts access to health care, under and unemployment. And for corporate leaders, I would say this, like, we have to have a workforce that is going to continue to make you profitable. But if we have an illiterate workforce, that doesn't happen. Literacy impacts civic engagement, voting, running for office, understanding policy. And I would think that all of us want children and adults who read, who think critically, who can problem solve. I know I do. Because, see, they have to take care of us that are aging, right? AI ain't going to do that. Robots ain't going to do that yet. So take the surveys. Again, the links were provided. The QR codes were provided. Share this live with someone who works with kiddos, that's interested in education policy, that needs to know the truth of the matter, right? And let's stop being comforted by the easy things. We want to do the right things. I used to be in community meetings and people's like, we got to do something. We got to do something. And I would always say, yeah, we got to do something, but we need to do the right thing. Not just any old thing, because we are rushing to solve a problem that may be a bit more complex, and we can't rush to solve it, right? So, yeah, we don't want to find the easy answer. We want to ask for the real answer, right? So I thank you all for tuning in. I thank you all for sharing this out. I thank you for liking it. I thank you for hitting, hashtag replay in the comments, all the things. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. Again, take the survey before you wrap yourself up for the evening. Please, please, please. Okay. So that is absolutely what I wanted to share with you all this evening. I wanted to make sure we had a real conversation about the proposed changes to the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I'm going to put up real quick before I go again. Here is the, I'm going to take the link off, but I'll just have the QR code up here. Here is the Spanish version. So go ahead and scan that QR code, screenshot it, share it with three people, and ask them to take the survey as well. And then, of course, here is our English version as well. If you have not already taken it, go ahead and take it. Remember, we're talking Northland, we're talking KCK, we're talking KC Mo, we're talking Grandview, Raytown, Lee Summit, Belton, Raymore, the northeast side of town, the west side of town, like right everywhere. Independence, we need you all. Every suburb, every boundary across Kansas City metro area, we need to have your input. We need to have your voices. We need 600 responses. We're at about 200. So we have some work to do, y'all. Let's get this done before the kids go back to school. Let's get this done so we can have real conversation with our elected officials around the absolute best way to spend the resources that we have available. All right. So that's what I got. That's what I got. That's what I got. I'm going to put this down. Y'all have had plenty of time. Plenty of time, I think, to get that. Thank you for joining me. Somebody tag the mayor so he know what, why he shouldn't be upset. Let me see. I might tag him and see if I can. I'm going to see if I can get him, and our city council folk as well. I'm going to tag them before we get off. I'm going to use my other device to do it because I want all of us to be on the same page, collectively understanding. All right, y'all, I tagged him. So hopefully he will tune in and watch this just like I tune in his Q&A sessions that he does as well. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you have any concerns, feel free to reach out. Again, my name is Katina Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO of Dreams KC, an education nonprofit where we empower parents with the tools they need to teach their children foundational literacy skills. I hope this was beneficial for you all this evening. I'm sure I'll be pulling some clips from it. I'll be posting those clips. Watch the replay. Let me know that you watched it by doing #replay. And again, any questions, comments, and concerns, go ahead and post them. Most importantly, take the survey, y'all. Let's get to 600 so that we can actually talk real clear about where we need to deploy the resources and get the right books into the hands of the kiddos that are our growing, developing literacy learners. That's all I got. Y'all know I always say when I get ready to end the broadcast is, y'all know it, I'm getting to my music so I can turn that on before we get on up out of here. Let's get lit, y'all. Bye. Have a good
Books open doors we've never seen. Big dreams growing in our family. Turn the page, shine a light. Every story takes us to new heights. When we learn together, we rise together too. Every word we read is a step towards something new. Let's get lit, yeah, the reading kind. Families learning, hearts and minds. Lift your voice, hold your book up high. We're raising readers, watch them fly. Let's get lit every day, every night. Family literacy shining bright. Turn the page, let your dreams ignite. We get lit when we learn to read and write. Mama, daddy, grandma too. Everybody's reading, me and you. Words are power, words are keys. Unlocking futures, set us free. When we read together, we grow in every way. Little moments matter, just 10 minutes a day. Let's get lit, yeah, the reading kind. Families learning, hearts and minds. Lift your voice, hold your book up high. We're raising readers, watch them fly. Let's get lit every day, every night. Family literacy shining bright. Turn the page, let your dreams ignite. We get lit when we learn to read and write. Say L-I-T, let's light it up. L-I-T, let's light it up. From ABC to every chapter, we're